Maybe one of those common questions I get is the old chestnut of how do I live more spiritual life when the world around me demands so much of my time and attention? Well, I wrote an entire book about that, but if you want it all in a nutshell, then there's a number of practices that I know bring massive spiritual benefits to anyone who learns to use them. Now, before I start listing them off so that you can give them a go, a word of warning. Anything that promises to deliver as much meaning to your life as the subject we're about to embark on isn't just going to hand you a simple answer you can apply once like polish on your car and then you'll be good forever. In fact, the car polish example is pretty apt. If you want the car to constantly look good, then it probably needs a wash and a polish on a regular basis. Now, the same can be said for nurturing your spirit. It isn't something you fix with a single dose. It isn't something that turns up and never goes away. It isn't a one-hit wonder drug. It's the same as anything that you really, really value, like your ability to play a musical instrument or drive a car on touch type. It becomes second nature only after you put in the hours and hours and hours of practicing and perfecting the process that means that your fingers run across a keyboard without you having to watch them. It's a little bit like the guy who said to me, frustrated one day in a classroom, meditation, I tried that once and it didn't work. Now, he's a classical example of what we see every day in our culture. And that's the idea that every problem should have an instant fix. Every dilemma should be fixed with one sentence answer. Every issue should be sorted with a 30-second sound grab. So the bad news is that any spiritual practice will take serious and significant devotion of energy in order for you to become as good at it as you need to be. You're going to have to put in the repetition and the frustration to get there. I'm talking daily practice here, not weekly or monthly. And the good news is that daily practice always works no matter where you're starting from. Having said that, here's where I see people succeeding when they put the time in. Number one, practice looking deeper within. Once you come to the conclusion that life is at the very least a learning experience, then you also come to the conclusion that every problem, every mongrel, every setback, every hurdle, every difficulty is actually a lesson presenting itself for you to understand. Obviously, these lessons repeat if we don't learn them. Therefore, a reasonable person would tackle life's challenges by asking, what have you come to teach me? Our journey becomes more spiritual as we become introspective and start to focus on the changes we need to make internally rather than pointing out who and what needs to change so that our ego is less aggravated. For example, when we come across an angry or difficult client, our ego can easily justify us descending to their level and behaving just as badly as them. Perhaps looking within would reveal that this is an opportunity to practice patience or a moment in which we can develop compassion. When we look deeper than the circumstances around us, we become deeper ourselves. Let's go to number two. Design yourself. We're mostly the way we are and the way we know ourselves as a result of everything that we've been through, both good and bad. That's fine, but it's also a bit random. I once had a client whose twin girls were kidnapped by their crazy father, resulting in her having zero contact with him for 6 years. When she got her kids back, she moved to another town where she wouldn't be constantly referred to or known as the woman who had her kids stolen. And that's what I call making sure your circumstances don't define you. So we have to bust out of our life pattern inheritance and be who we want to be. And you can do that by asking yourself what you want people to say about you behind your back. And if you come up with things like compassionate, fair, thoughtful, etc., and that's not much of a list, but you get the idea, that's great. Well, now you know what you'll have to say and do so that those concepts reveal themselves to those who you come in contact with. You might call those ideas your values. If so, it all gets a bit easier because all you have to do is live up to them. Okay, let's go to number three. Go within. You're never going to find your core, your essence, your spirit by chasing success, fame, and happiness. Those things are okay, by the way, but, and it's a big but, the real you lives deep within. You have to decide on a spiritual practice that reliably takes you inside and make it a habit. Whether that's meditation or prayer or mindfulness is none of my business, but I can tell you that those things all work for anyone willing to give them a red-hot go for 30 days in succession. Think about that. Your life could be infinitely more spiritually rewarding simply because you put going deep within yourself at the top of your priority list instead of getting everything else done and hoping that there's a bit of time left at the end of the day or the bottom of your to-do list. So there you go. Those are my 3 top recommendations for living a more spiritual life. They're guaranteed to work. But if you think they will deliver nirvana first time up, you're not really looking for a spiritual practices. You're looking for a guru to kiss you on the forehead and tell you that you're going to get into heaven. Those gurus, by the way, are easy to find. They will tell you that they have all the answers. I'm saying you've got all the answers.